Welcome everyone to a day in the life of. Today we have talent acquisition. We have Sarah from Hux Hunt, we have Guilherme from Aussie, and we have Evie from Latana. My name is Mafalda, we are at Wonderway, and every week we want to understand each role, each department, what's their priorities, what's the challenges, etc., etc., etc. So with no further ado, Sarah, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do at Hux Hunt.
Oh yeah. Hi everyone. Nice to be part of this session here today. My name is Sara, and I guess you can say I've been through like the SaaS startup scene for a while now. Have a very background, like everything from flight attendant to therapist. So yeah, sales, customer success. Yeah, it's a broad picture really. But I guess yeah, people centric roles. That's what I love. Recruiting, especially. Yeah, I love it, and that's what I do for a living. Yeah. Also, dog mom, animal lover, apart from being a people lover. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. I love to hear that because I think I also love dogs, so I relate to that. But I think it's great that you have a very diverse background. As we were talking before recording, right? So I've done pub
True.
crawls to
Yeah.
sales to event planning to executive assistant to sales. So I really relate to that. And you can learn a lot of skills in different jobs that then you can apply in your current
Yeah.
job. So that's great. Guilherme, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
So, good morning, everyone. Nice to be here. So, basically, I'm a social psychologist. I was always a people's person. So, I think HR came
Yes, I
naturally
can
to
vouch for
me.
that.
Exactly. So, recruitment was always part of, I'd say, my career path. Let's put it this way. I started working as a recruiter a couple of years ago. Then I moved to, how do you call it, to Berlin, one of my favorite cities, to try out
That's
a
when
new
that's when we met.
challenge. This is when we met. I had a slightly change in that career path when I moved into tourism, but back again in Portugal. It was something that came naturally to me. I had an old colleague that reached out to me and said, hey, what about coming back to recruitment? And I was like, why not? I always loved that. So this is what I'm doing currently. Okay, I'm part of Aussie. Aussie is part of the Hanch. It's part of under the Randstad umbrella. I currently sit on a team that works exclusively with a very specific account. So I help out with everything that is talent acquisition, and whenever I can, I do a little bit of talent acquisition myself.
That's great. Yeah. You know, in literature, we always come back home, and I think is what happened to you, right? You're trying to go away
True.
from talent acquisition, and you couldn't. So,
Yeah,
Evie,
true.
Evie, tell us more about yourself.
I'm one of the masses of Americans in Berlin. I came to Berlin about 12 years ago, which is wild. Did everything freelancer, did a lot of writing, content management, and then eventually found my way into recruitment with a travel company, Sandemans, and really enjoyed my
Never
time.
heard. Never heard of them.
Really enjoyed my time there with the Classy Sassy crew, which included Miss Mafalda, of course. But of course, the pandemic was not kind to travel. And so I was lucky to find myself in a new career at Latana, a B2B SaaS company. So I'm senior talent acquisition manager there, which basically means I do it all, all of the talent acquisition, start to finish on my own with a really small people team at this point. So it's been a journey.
Happy to have you here, and I really like your LinkedIn activity. So for those who are listening to us, Evie has great content all the time, so definitely follow her on LinkedIn. Great, thank you so much, all of you, for being here. So let's start general and then go to specifics. So Guilherme, what it's been like in customer acquisition? What does it mean in terms of tasks and responsibilities?
Well, basically, I can sum it up in trying to find all the best talents and the best people there is in the market to actually bring in to, in this case, the client, the company, to fulfill basically the needs they have to grow for the future. In a nutshell, that's basically it. What I normally say, it's like I spend my days hunting for people on different platforms and try to kind of understand that fit in terms of what they're looking for, what would be their biggest motivation to, let's say, change a specific challenge. This, of course, align with, I normally say, a very good understanding, or we try, I think, our best to understand a bit with all the hiring managers, with everyone that works around us, what they're actually looking for. I think big part of our job is that try to understand what people recruiting are actually looking for, the type of profile, the experience, manage that expectations. But again, I think in a nutshell, I think this is basically what we do on a daily basis.
Sarah, do you have anything to add, to complement, to disagree?
I think that Guy here summed it up pretty nicely. I mean, a lot of my friends they think that I sit in interviews all day. Of course, I do also that, but I think it's really like for people who are not in talent acquisition, it's about understanding that it's from it's everything that happens on that talent journey from maybe even not actively looking for a job to signing a contract, which means it's also like about data. It can be about like calendar management and just scheduling interviews. It's about managing the ATS, keeping the data up to date, communication with candidates, with hiring managers. It's really, really broad. And I like to, usually you also hear and see on LinkedIn, for instance, that recruitment and sales are so hand in hand. I'd like to say that it's more customer success in a way, because you will act as a you will build
True.
relationship. That's what I think that I do on a daily basis. And yeah, stakeholder management, and there are like a lot of it's project and process management, it's guiding, it's assuring, it's yeah, it's a lot of things, so it's a really broad and
True.
interesting role.
Ibi, I see you smiling.
Yeah, really well said by both of you. It's definitely a job where if you like wearing many hats, you will get the chance to do that because you do lots of different things on a daily basis. And it's not all the public things that people see of job ads and interviewing, but starting all the way at creating what this job actually will look like, what this position needs to fulfill, working really closely with hiring managers, and then doing what you said with that, like kind of client management. Your candidates become people that you think about and that you want them to have success as well. And so you want to keep them as prospects for possible future roles, and how the company image as a whole ties into this, trying to do employer branding. So it's very comprehensive.
Yeah,
How do
true.
you usually structure your day, Ibi? Usually.
I think mornings are often, hopefully only a little bit, but crisis management, where there's cancellations, there's reschedules, um,
Oh, I like it.
I think that's always like exciting to like log in for the day and be like, what do we have? Check your Slack. That's the first bit, and hopefully it only takes a little, because then you're usually off to interviews. At least for me, so I'll usually have several interviews throughout the day, which I'll schedule kind of throughout. And then it'll be a lot of that back end work, where often it's writing the scorecards for how those interviews went,
Mhm.
liaising with the hiring managers, with the team about next steps, what that my interview was like, what we want to see happening, and then doing all those real tasks of doing employer branding, doing my LinkedIn post, coordinating with the people team on wider HR tasks. So varied, very much so.
Guillermo, I see you nodding and laughing a lot. Do you
No,
agree?
no, I agree a lot. I love the fact that you said might manage a little bit the crisis on a daily basis, because it happens all the time. I think we have a little bit of experience on that. But I agree with you. It's basically I like to see my week. I like to plan my week a little bit according. And like Mondays and Tuesdays are always like crisis management at a certain point. I try to do as much sourcing, meaning like actively looking for people on the first days of the week. So I have time, let's say, from Wednesday onwards to schedule as much interviews as I can, to screen as much people as I can. So actually, what I say is like a successful week for me is like at the end of the week, I have identified either potential candidates for future possibilities. Either I do have like that right person that I think it's the right person to share with the client, with the hiring manager. And again, I think feedback from them is actually quite important to tailor a little bit, or like to work a little bit some areas we probably neglected, we probably didn't look at it as we should. So a week is more or less that, like, crisis management, beautiful. um, Sourcing as much candidates as we can, doing the interview, and of course, I think what Sarah also said before, there's a a bunch of different actions that needs to happen afterwards. It's not simply just finding the right guy, interviewing, and here you go. There's I think that's not even halfway through the entire process, and I think probably the two of you agree with me. Finding someone or having the green light from management saying, like, we want this person, let's do this, then you have another another stage that starts, that sometimes can be a little bit more tricky or more challenging, which is closing the deal, negotiating the offer, having the person actually, you can bring in the person and take care of all the onboarding, etc., with no major crisis happening in the meantime. But yeah, that's more or less my week.
I thought we were talking about talent acquisition, but it looks like a sales call.
Yeah.
like, like
You're
because
joking,
it's the
but I
same.
think we don't take me wrong, but correct me, ladies, if I'm wrong. But for example, there is a bit of a sales perspective into this, because all the time, especially when you're actively sourcing for a person that is not looking for a job, for instance, the way I normally go into it is, like, I always, like, put into perspective, like, the pros and the cons. And for example, sometimes I feel like a salesman going, like, listen, I have this very interesting project, like, just give me like 2 minutes and hear me out. So this is what you could do, this is how. And
Upfront contract right there.
and the trick I normally use is, there's a reason why we, for example, I would call one of you girls, for example, for one of the projects I would have. So eventually I would look into your background, into your experience. I would say, this might fit something there. So this is something I use as a sales kind of, like,
Personalization. There
exactly,
you
as a
go. I'm
sales, like,
telling you, this
strategy.
is
I
a
was like,
sales
listen,
The machine.
call.
yeah. So it is, to be honest, and again, that's part of the job, because again, when it comes to the negotiation aspect of it, I feel it's more, you're walking over thin ice, because so many things can go wrong. So the attention to the detail here can be very important. The way you have to be transparent, authentic, and, like, straightforward to this can be very important. Candidates are different. My manager has this beautiful thing that she says: we work with the most unpredictable product of them all, which is people. Like, so it's like, if you have that into account, like, that part of the sales that comes afterwards, when you go to offer the candidate the position, like, get all the details in writing, have the signature, and have the person walking, in this case, or like, signing to your to your computer, and have, like, this face to face the day they're supposed to. I think we can all say that we were successful. A lot of things can go wrong in the meantime.
That's great. Sarah, what does success mean to you? Because I know now what does it mean for Guilherme. Does it mean the right way to you, the same way?
Like, yeah, and this is like, I see that you can answer this question in really, like, a lot of ways. For me personally, like, what I aim at is to make the candidate feel at ease. I want to make them feel comfortable, because in the end of the day, right, I want to ensure, like, that like, hiring managers find the best possible person for whatever role is open at the moment, and I want the candidate to have a good impression of the company and, like, a good feeling about joining us potentially. So that means that I want to make them feel comfortable enough to open up to me, and I really want to help them to bring their best sides forward. So in order to do that, that requires, an open mind, curiosity, empathy, like a lot of, knowledge about how to be with people and interact with them. But then, of course, we are measured, in different ways. So that also means that you need to, have enough input in your pipeline. You have to drive processes forward. That's why you have to be very I guess, as we heard about all the crisis management, that's why it's really important to be well organized and, driven by data in your decisions, so that you know that where does it make most sense to put your time, and how do you need to, set off chunks of your day and do different types of tasks, because there's a bunch of different stuff that you need to do. But yes, really, really hard question. And that was not like, sort of,
But
political
Love that.
one.
sorry, if I may, I think you said a very beautiful thing, which is, I think, for all of us is important, which is like the candidate experience. A successful day in our job is to basically have, yes, everyone involved should have a positive experience out of it, but yet having the candidate having, like something positive out of it, I think it's crucial. And mistakes happen for everyone looking at and seeing this, like mistakes happen, like candidates that I forgot to give feedback. I apologize, but sometimes we do our best to, again, have this candidate experience, like on a top level. But again, mistakes also happen. But I think this is something very important that you said, Sarah, in terms of a success, or of what is success probably in our
I
area.
agree, because I can tell you, as from the candidate experience, I judge the company culture by the recruitment. So
Yeah.
I've dropped from recruitment processes in the past because I thought, if this is not going the way I think it should go, imagine when I start working. So I think that I really agree, and I really believe that's a great part of the job, because I've judged companies in the past because of the recruitment process. Ibi, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, a lot of the things that you guys touched on, long-term success is not just filling a position. It's having that holistic view of what exactly your company needs. And that starts all the way back at the job creation, working with the hiring manager, at identifying not just like what are the responsibilities day to day, but what does success look like in this role in the next 3 months, 6 months, etc., so that you can find that candidate that can meet those needs, and you can meet their expectations as well. Because if you hire someone and it is ultimately not successful in that probation period, it's a huge waste of everyone's time and resources. Again, happens. It's completely understandable, but setting yourself up for success for these short term all the way through the process, it's really important.
Yeah,
Sure.
makes sense.
Agree.
And how about challenges? So crisis management and what you just mentioned.
Oh, no.
So, Ibi, what other challenges would you mention that your role entails?
So I just talked about like how important it is to get it right at the beginning. Do you always get it right at the beginning? No. How many times do you like carefully craft like a candidate brief with your hiring manager, go over all the requirements, you start interviewing, you find either you were off on what you expected of the market, or what you're offering is not attractive to the candidate, or your expectations were out of line. Whereas somewhere along the way, maybe you were drafting a junior or a mid-level position, but what you're asking for, what you're expecting, what the hiring manager is often is expecting is someone in a senior. Then this misalignment, that's a challenge that just isn't going to go away. You're going to not agree on candidates. It's going to be a frustrating situation for everyone around.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to realign, which often means abandoning a whole recruitment process and starting again, which is a huge challenge.
No, agree.
Yeah.
I think managing those expectations are probably one of the biggest challenges we have on both sides, on part of on the hiring manager side, on the candidate side as well. So having that tuned again, because we're supposed to be the experts in the market here. So again, but finding the right, like the right spot to actually sit down and clearly have those expectations on the realistic level, like discussed, is quite important, because you said it right, Evie, it can be a massive waste of time for everyone involved. Just getting to that point, and we'll be like, it's not going to happen. And again, like even with like, for example, what I was saying about like the offering part, etc., like lowballing. It happened to me a couple of times, probably with you as well, like when you have like a certain budget for a certain person, and that the candidate was clear with you at a certain point, and in the end you go like, I love this candidate, let's go ahead, can we offer him a little bit lower? And you'll be like, no, why would you do this? It's like this
Yeah.
again, the sales part coming into play. So again, like expectations is probably one of the biggest challenges we might have, like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Sarah, I see
Of
you
course.
nodding.
Yeah. And yes, I agree too. Yeah, everything. And also, I mean, market fluctuations, like now
Yeah,
beginning of this year, also there's so much thing going on in the talent market as well. So that's also something that ultimately, yes, affect our jobs and the sourcing part especially, but also like negotiating and what can you expect, budgets, everything that you work with. What I also would like to maybe address, I think that TA is certainly also one of those roles where you, as like a person, need to be very mindful about setting your own boundaries and be mindful of that work-life balance all the time, because there's always things to do. You can always, sit in the evening and source for more candidates, and that's up to you where you want to draw the line and say, hey, like this is, I can do this many recruitments a year, and that's how it's going to be. So I think that's also one, at least for me personally, have been a challenging part of
yeah.
this job.
Yeah. Did you actually, I have a question because you mentioned this year. Are you feeling a huge difference between before the recession and now in terms of your job, or the job itself is more or less the same?
I feel like it really depends on, well, of course, the roles, also like which market. Are we talking Nordics, US? Like where are we moving? I guess like in sales or like the developer scene, like that's always a sort of different story. But I think it's really interesting to follow like how the market varies
Yeah.
overall. Yeah.
Yeah. There's natural fluctuations, but in the past 3 months, the amount of people that are in interviews that are saying they were just laid off, they're about to move for a job, like they were just getting started on a new career and it's been cut short, that I feel like has skyrocketed, which is really
Yeah,
sad.
true. To
Yeah.
be
It's
honest, I
really
also
sad,
had this impression.
but do you have more like talent available now? Do you feel that, EB?
I don't know. I have a feeling that the talent is always there. It's a question of like how can you reach them, and how can you
Mm.
actually, I always say it's for me it's a lot of opportunity, the sense of opportunity, the right moment, the right time, the right person. It's like, and again, I think with you two, it happened as well. You found like have like this amazing candidate, like at this point the opening you have is not the perfect one for them, and in a couple of weeks, you have that perfect opening and the candidate is gone, or vice versa. It's literally a sense of opportunity. And I have like colleagues that are amazing. I have no idea how they do it, but they always manage to find like, again, like the right talent for their openings, and others struggle a lot with this because what I think is the market is getting way more competitive, way more competitive. And I think COVID accelerated a little bit this work and life balance, work from home aspects that a lot of the people are a lot of importance into it. Some of the companies that are not matching it will lose a
Yeah,
lot
I don't
in
accept
yeah.
calls if it's not fully remote. I have
For
that.
example, although I understand that there's still a lot of discussion that needs to be undertaken regarding, like the fully remote or not. I think that for some roles, for some companies, like having this in-person aspect will also be important. But again, people realize there's a lot of things that you do on a daily basis that you can do it, remotely, for example. So talent is for me is literally a question of how you put your how do you call it, your detective hat and actually manage to find it, because I think
Yeah.
again it's getting more competitive.
There's a shift in what benefits you can highlight when you're talking
Mhm.
about things like remote, of course. Latana received Series B funding last spring, which was really fortunate timing before the year went absolutely crazy. And being able to reiterate that kind of financial stability has a higher reward right now than it did 2 years ago, a year ago, even during the
True.
pandemic. So being
That's for sure. Yeah, it gives that assurance to the candidate, right? To know that they're not going to be laid off in the next week or so, at least not for financial reasons. So
Exactly.
yeah, absolutely. Great. And before we continue to the last question, I have one before, which is, which KPIs do you look? So in sales, we love KPIs, right? Revenue, meetings booked, meetings converted. Sarah, what's the KPIs you look at when you're talent acquisition?
Oh, there's a lot, and I think there's a difference in like what I personally look at when I work with a hiring manager and what my like supervisor would look at. Of course, I
Hmm.
mean, in the end of the day, you know, the like completion rate. So you know, like
Yeah.
how many appointments we're able to fill. That's what we are measured at a high level. But then, of course, like I follow so that I can come into a process and be the expert in there. So I follow like, okay, so historical data, how long does it typically take to find a salesperson or a customer success person? How much sourcing does it require? Like this sort of backwards planning, like in order to make one offer. So how many candidates do I need to have in the final stage? How many does that require
That's a
for
pipeline. Once again, same thing as sales.
it
Jesus,
is.
I could
And
work in
also
talent acquisition and you guys could work in sales.
I really I have a lot to like my sales managers in the past to thank for this. But yeah, I mean also you know offer acceptance rate, all of these sort of things. So you know that you know sometimes if the turnover is high or if there's like a high probability that the candidate is not going to accept your offer, then you have to do it all over again. So that also needs to be taken into consideration. And candidate experience, like how do you measure that? You know, yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of different parameters here.
Ibi, do you have other KPIs or they are more or less the same?
More or less the same. I mean,
Yeah.
what you're measuring is the same, but what you do with that information, I really like having a retrospective at the end of the year of going over all, because you have these feelings of what's working effectively and what's not, and you're keeping track during the year. But if you can do an overall look at what's been successful, I think you can make those broader takeaways to hopefully adjust and optimize your experiences next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like it's basically KPIs will only be numbers in KPIs if you're not able to take a step back and look into it and learn something out of it. Because again, if not, you're still going to be interviewing, screening a bunch of people, and in the end, again, like you said, Sarah, like the success hiring rate is going to be like, yeah,
Mm.
there's something there. You need to look into the data to actually extract
Yeah.
some information.
You mentioned about knowledge. Which knowledge sources, Guilherme, do you use to get new ideas for your job, or when you have a question or want to improve yourself? Where do you look at usually?
Colleagues are my best source of knowledge because for example what we were talking about, like the full remote part, one of the things I miss was, for example, at certain points being at the office and exchanging some experiences of how did you approach this candidate, how did you manage to close this case, etc., etc. So I miss a bit that part in terms of like exchanging those experiences that I managed to learn a bunch of stuff with, again, all the people around me. My manager still is a well of knowledge that I can extract in terms of guidance and information. Colleagues were a big one, and of course, I've been discovering a very cool thing called YouTube, especially when it comes to technical profiles. So, for example, I recruit both technical and non-technical profiles. But on technical profiles, again, I'm normally very honest with the candidates. I'm saying I'm not, the expert on this matter. But before I have, like, let's say, a new request, a new bid coming my way, I found out a couple of really cool YouTube channels specific over tech where people talk about it. Like specific technologies, what do they do, other frameworks that can add to each other. So YouTube and colleagues would, at this point, I know it sounds a little bit, but it's one of the best knowledge wells that I have at this point.
Makes sense. How about you, Ibi? How do you get inspired?
Let's see. There's Recruiting Brain Food is a weekly newsletter that I think is super helpful. It covers a lot of trends, which is interesting. Not everything's going to be pertinent to what you're doing, but it's really cool to hear the different things that are going on in different spaces within
Yeah.
recruitment. There's also a HR group, I think they're called like Secret HR Group, which is a really funny name, but a Slack group that's super handy on people handing through candidates that didn't work out for their company, or diversity and inclusion policies, or whatever. That's super helpful too. I really like referring to that.
How about you, Sarah?
Well, yeah, I'm very familiar also with the like YouTubing and trial and erroring your way around, because back when I started in HR and like recruitment especially, I had no previous experience and I had no like real HR director to help me there. So it was kind of, deep end of the pool right away. So what I decided to do and what I've continued doing is to partner up with more senior peers. So I had like different mentors and sparring partners to like learn from. And now, for instance, I have one who is very good at sourcing. So we talk a lot around that. Learned a bunch of stuff, like really technical stuff, and I'm like, how did I not, like, I've spending so much time on sourcing, like now it's so much more efficient. So I try to like have an expert to learn from basically when I have a
Yeah.
problem, and then solve it from there. And all these like, yeah, newsletters, Facebook groups, but not books,
Yeah.
also podcasts.
No,
Yeah.
true. No, Mafalda, you said that Evie is a very good, strong LinkedIn
Oh, she is.
content.
She's
I forgot
amazing.
about that, but there
That's
are
fine.
some amazing recruiters over there on LinkedIn that have been they've been caring enough to put together like some information on a newsletter, on discussion groups, etc., that are worth visiting. And I'm not even saying this from a recruiter's perspective. I think we always learn with each other, but even for candidates, they're like very strong advice there on how a
Right?
candidate should approach. Yeah,
Yeah.
at this point, it's like it is a work in itself. Like for a candidate looking for their next big challenge, it is again challenging, but there's a lot of information there in terms of like how can people tailor a bit what they are looking for to what do they have to offer, and how can they work that out in terms of like maximizing their perspectives, like that. It's worth giving it a look. There are amazing people on LinkedIn that they're doing fantastic job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really good point.
Because I suck at this, and everyone knows like I suck at this. I
Your
suck at
LinkedIn
like
is terrible, man.
yeah, I know, but then I know, it's like I'm trying my best, in the 21st century to stay away from social networking, but at the same time, I understand the importance of it and how much I'm losing not doing it, not being engaging, But again, thank God, EB, probably you and other people are doing, that job for the rest of us, because I'm terrible,
The
terrible.
phone's talking up a big game. My LinkedIn is not impressive. You're right that people have great resources, great things to refer back to on there. I just share like what my company is doing, what I find interesting, and things that I draw from my work life, which I think is great insights for hopefully people interested in my company or interested in what the life of
100%. If I had an interview with you,
Yeah.
I'd go through your LinkedIn, check your stuff, mention that, create a report, ask you questions, and probably I'll go out in the second phase of the interview, right?
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
there's some basic
okay.
things that people should do.
No, true. I
I
think
have
again,
gotten positive comments and interviews where people are like, I saw this post and I thought it was really cool. It made me interested in your company. So it's effective on a small scale, but effective.
yeah, it is.
No, absolutely. And also people want to work with people like you, right? So it's like it's both helps the candidate to prepare, but also helps you attract good talent who wants to
Yes.
work with you and your company. So I think it's very, very
I
good
think
content.
that's the other part of the job that for us recruiters, or everyone working in talent acquisition is crucial. You need to kind of like coach your candidates to have a candidate going for an interview going like, yeah. So, what do you have? It's like it's not gonna happen. It's like those first impressions and the way the engagement level you're gonna have from the other side is not gonna happen. So again, like part of my concern whenever I submit or I share candidate is as well have like that timing with the candidate to small things like you said, like go and look for, research a bit the company you're looking for, find the people on LinkedIn, like look a bit out of this, don't go totally blind to it.
And that's also a sales advice, by the
It
way.
is, it is. And I notice, like, sometimes when I forget, like, I think like, okay, it's a senior candidate, he knows this, and then you forget to mention certain details, and then afterwards you'll be like, God damn it, why? Because it's something that you need to look into it. It will dictate, like, let's say, the success or not for a hiring.
That's really like there's so much information available, and of course company website, but use the LinkedIn as well. And yeah, it's I would not be happy if a candidate asked me like everything that they can read on the website, but feel free to ask more and comment on the stuff up there.
Ibi, I see you agreeing.
Yeah, definitely. When candidates show that engagement, that they've read your website more than the mission statement, that they have understanding, it gives you that reciprocal interest. It gives you a gauge on how invested are they in this process.
Yeah.
What are the points that they have found most interesting to this point, so that you can continue down those lines. It's a two-way street where you are trying to understand the candidate's needs as well. It serves you for this process to be transparent and understand exactly what they're looking for.
Right. This has been awesome, but we are almost in the end of the show. I always have the feeling, and I said it all the time, that I would love to have more time to discuss. But we go into my favorite question of this show, which is I will show you an email that was written for talent acquisition. So, and you will tell me if that resonates with your role. No worries. It's anonymous. We are not shaming anyone. But
Okay.
as you guys are so good in sales, I'm sure your insights on the email will be very valuable to the audience. So I will share the email. I will read it out loud. And let's see if this salesperson understands the talent acquisition world or not. So, hi, Guilherme. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Ibi. How are you finding the right talent for your organization? We've been speaking with talent acquisition managers, and they mention how they get hundreds of applications, but it's still challenging to find the right person for the job. Company ABC that I'm working for categorizes talent based on the candidate's profile, filters CVs based on your requirements, and manages and nurtures applicants through the hiring process. Would you be open to learning more? Best, John. Sarah, what's your take?
I mean, it's a solid, pitching email. It's average. This is actually better than a lot of the ones I get, because I think it's
All
short,
right.
it's to the point.
Straight to the point. Yeah.
Then like this might be like Finnish, because I'm Finnish. So I would like to be maybe even more direct to the point, because I always find it, frustrating when someone is approaching me like, "Hey, do you find this difficult?" I'm like, "What do you want? Just like say it immediately. 30 minutes of my time." Yeah, I hear you laughing, but yeah, to the point.
I love that. I love that. Evie, what's your take?
I completely agree. It's not the worst by any means. The third paragraph is where you finally get to the point, really, like, what does your service do? And it's still pretty vague. Like, how does this do it better than LinkedIn Recruiter? Because that's going to be everyone's pretty much go-to. I want to know what the advantage is here to really, truly be interested. And then my overall takeaway is, unfortunately, really bad for salespeople, that my response to these almost always is dictated by internal needs. Like, am I looking or not? There's very little they can say if I'm not looking that's going to convince me, unfortunately.
No worries. We are used to. That's our game. Guilherme, what's your take?
Straight to the point. I like it. With Sarah, the difference between Portugal and Finnish, okay, is that sometimes I try to be a little bit more, I try to personalize the message a bit, I try to win people over, but I agree. It's like, you need to be kind of like straight to the point of what you're looking for. However, this kind of messages with me, I have a brilliant strategy, which is always like, it's not with me. You have to deal with my manager. He's the contact. Here's the email. Deal with it. I always have a
your
very
manager must love
brilliant
you.
way. Sorry?
Your manager must love you.
No, no,
Guillermo.
no, no. We
You're not
already
the
had a
gatekeeper.
conversation about
There you go.
this. Yeah, we already had a conversation about this. So I mean, this needs to stop eventually. But I always have a way of like deflecting the responsibility away. I'm not the decision maker here. Here you go.
You
Talk to
are
the
the gate opener, not the gatekeeper. We love you. We
true,
salespeople
true.
appreciate you.
True. No, that's the thing. I kind of like opened the door, and like, here you go. Try your best, like, and try to reason with the person on the other side. But it wasn't. It was straightforward straight to the point. That's something that I value a lot. Even I think us when contacting candidates, again, if you go there very, hi, how are you today, like you need to have a very interesting balance between that personalized kind of message, but really go straight to the point. People
Yeah.
overall are working, we're not here to waste anyone's time. So
Yeah.
it is how do we put it, it is a talent in per se, people that I have people that do this brilliantly, other people's that need to work a little bit on that, but then all
It's
good.
really a challenge, like balancing nice and personalized with direct and short, right? So it's a hard
Yeah.
balance. And even though I do have a lot of experience on it, because it's my job to train, why salespeople doing that, sometimes I'm like, Jesus, this is not easy, even though I've done it for many years now. So it's definitely a fine balance that's not easy to
It
do.
is, but I think like sorry, go ahead.
No, Sarah, go ahead.
Okay. No, I'm just gonna say quickly that I think sometimes people try to, make the sale in that email. Well, again, that's why you want to have the meeting. That's when we can talk about closing contracts. But in the email, like all you want is some time from the person. So talk about that and not like your service, because you don't even know. You haven't asked any like, discovery questions like, do they even need that kind of tool? So yeah.
Absolutely. The first email is just to spark the interest and try to get if there is any need, and
Yeah.
the rest is the rest of the sales cycle. Same with recruitment, right? I mean, just because you're going to an interview doesn't mean you're going to get the job, right? So there you go. So guys, if you ever want to work in sales, talk with me. If I want to try talent acquisition, I hope you interview me. I'm sure I have a lot of skills that I can apply. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for this insightful and fun conversation and for your time. I wish you all the best in this upcoming year. And thank you again for being here.
Thanks.
Well, until next time, thank you,
Thanks for
Mafalda.
having
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Evie. Talk to you soon.
Thank
Lots of
you.
Have a good
successful
one.
hirings, okay, for 2023.
us.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
one. Bye
Have a
bye.
good one. Bye.